this video, I'll be reviewing and rating my Lego creations from my childhood out of 10 to see if I was a building prodigy or a complete noob at building Lego. And at the end of the video, I'll be taking a look at all of the scores to see which of my MOCs was the best. Starting with this heavily armored car that's trying so hard to be a tank.
I built this one at around the age of 10 years old.
And it sports the OG wheels from 1963, a swiveling main cannon, a machine gun at the bottom, and a sidearm in the form of a stud shooter. There's also this agent sticker on the top.
And then there's this sub-assembly in the front that's trying to look like one of those things you'd find on the front of a train. Overall rating, 6 out of 10. It lacks armor, but it makes up for it in the amount of weapons it has.
Then we have this tank. It's horrible. At least it has a better machine gun than the last one. Then it uses axles as cannons, and the use of the 4+ pre-made chassis is comical.
3 out of 10, bad.
Then we have this teeny police car with barely enough space for a minifigure, with working doors, some space for accessories, and a jail cell in the back for a singular baby. I don't really know why I was putting a Lego baby in a jail cell. Maybe it was because it was the only thing that could fit on a 2x2 jumper tile.
This MOC feels like a set from the 80s, so it's getting an 8 out of 10. Get it? Okay, never mind.
And continuing on to the next one.
This one is going to be about the Pizzeria. I built this one when I was 10 years old. As you can see from the dust, it hasn't been played with in a while.
The Pizzeria uses this old one-piece door and is of course 2 bricks thick since those were the only pieces that were available. Already from first glance, there's no roof, which was too difficult for me to figure out. I guess it allows for good ease of access. Once inside, you'll find seats for minifigures with this pizza menu that I added later on.
There's also this conveyor belt for your food that's like in those Japanese sushi restaurants. The only difference here is that this one comes and goes to nowhere. I probably got inspiration from that one episode in season 4 of Lego Ninjago.
Then moving on to the counter, there's a phone, some drinks, and a $100 bill. There's the fridge with a blender on top, a condiments dispenser for ketchup and mustard, and a stone oven that geniusly uses trans neon orange grill pieces to represent hot metal.
10-year-old me was cooking.
Then on this side, there's a tank with a fire alarm. To build the drive-through window, I somehow figured out how to use snot techniques to rotate a door to use it like a sunroof window. Of course, there's a speaker on the table to take your order and some change on the counter. Can I order a 2x2 pizza? A 2x2 pizza coming up.
Overall rating, 6.5 out of 10. There's no roof, but the drive-through really saves this one.
Next.
I'm reviewing my terrible Lego cars from my childhood.
Starting with this red and yellow open roof car with state-of-the-art breathing holes and a luxury loading ramp as an entrance to the vehicle.
The overall rating has to be 3 out of 10. I mean, the door is just hilarious.
Next, we have this Doom buggy that's made for my Ninjago skeletons. This design is based off of a buggy from this Ninjago book.
So this one gets a 5 out of 10.
Then we have this goofy car that uses the front slope and window from this atrocious set from 2000.
Why is there green?
This car has a fancy chrome engine intake with a sticker from this Racers set. There are some handlebars that are supposed to be boosters and a seat for a minifigure.
6 out of 10. It's over the top, but it's funny.
I improved on the last car design by adding mirrors this time with a proper color scheme, working doors, and a seat for a minifigure.
This car was always my favorite because it used the shiny wheels from the Lego Racers theme and it completely refined the design and colors. So that's an easy 8 out of 10. My school used to have these Christmas sales and I bought this Lego truck chassis for 25 cents, which was an amazing deal. It's not worth much to collectors because it comes from the dreaded Jackstone line from 2003. But to me as a 7-year-old, it was more than enough to work off of.
I don't have the exact build from all those years ago, but I have the main parts that have survived the great scrapping.
Which is the phase in a MOC's lifetime where you start scrapping it for parts to build other MOCs.
The cab is mostly intact with a hose on the side and a surprising amount of detail using levers. There's an exhaust pipe, a door in the back, and some side mirrors. To access the interior, you just have to rip the whole thing off, and there's enough space for a minifigure to stand comfortably in the driver's seat. The trailer was mostly scrapped for parts, but there's still a container, a seat, and a wide mirror that's on this piece that's surprisingly not a sticker.
I built this when I used to watch Ninjago in 5th grade.
It's an oversized motorcycle that I designed for Cole based off the various Lego Ninjago bikes. This build has a seat for a minifigure, some handlebars for Cole to hang on to, a little window in the front, and some nice slopes that are shaping the sides of the bike with some pointy gold ends. At the bottom, I also added 2 clips to store accessories. There are also some nice orange accents on the side that add some nice color.
I remember posting a picture of this on Lego Life. It's a pretty good build, very solid, 8 out of 10.
Next, we got this ridiculous Batmobile looking car that I built for Nia. It has this X-Wing cockpit and a very nice incline. The star of this build is the back that has this fire that pokes out. If you roll the car, the fire spins at the back because of these gears. Now we have this sort of alright classic spaceship that doesn't use any fancy building techniques, which is fine since even though my building techniques weren't great, Legos weren't very good either back in the 70s. So this ship perfectly captures the vibe with a cockpit for 2 pilots, a loading ramp for a rover, and a detachable shuttle at the top. This spaceship has so much playability and I had a lot of fun playing with it when I was a kid. This spaceship looks super nostalgic and iconic, uses the right color scheme, and has a ton of great play features, so it's getting a 9.4 out of 10. The next builds are very much inspired off of Lego sets, which is why they are so good. Starting with this AV7 cannon, obviously based off of the 2012 Clone Trooper Specialist Battle Pack. This one's a little better since it's larger, has a printed console, a useless 2x4 trans brick at the bottom that's meant to support the build but doesn't even touch the ground, and a cleverly used wheel for the barrel. Then we have this bark speeder that's basically identical to the 2011 one, and I built the staff speeder.
I'm reviewing a terrible Lego MOC from my childhood, but it's justified.
That's because it's my Crook hideout that I built when I was 10 years old. This build uses a mix and match of colors since I was running low on pieces, but it can be explained in the lore that it's a run-down house used by the Lego City criminals. Starting in the front, there's a pipe, a wood plank that's falling off,
with an air duct that I placed because I ran out of 2x2s, not because I was trying to add an air duct.
When we enter the house, there's a checkered rug, a lamp, and a shelf on the side. There's a Gryffindor painting on the side, there's some money, and on the other side, there's a vintage music player that can be opened to store a diamond. This table can also be opened to store an axe. I guess you could say the Crook's got quite the stash. Then on the second floor, there's a balcony and a one-piece door that leads to a bedroom with another rug, fire extinguisher, and a bed that has another storage compartment. Then at the top, there's a nice building technique using skeleton feet for the railing, which I'm pretty surprised that my younger self even figured out.
The design and outline of this house is pretty much perfect. Now the colors aren't exactly great, so it gets an 8.5 out of 10.
When I was 10 years old, I got the nose of the 2005 X-Wing, but I didn't get the rest of it. I never disassembled the nose because I wanted to eventually build the whole X-Wing.
So I decided to use the instruction manual from the 2018 X-Wing to get the mechanism for the inside for the attack S-foils to open.
And then I designed the wings myself using the extra 2x3 sticker from that 2018 set. The stickers were originally meant to be swapped out with the set when Biggs, the extra pilot, was flying, but I did this minifigure a little favor and built him and his astromech droid their own X-Wing. That way they don't have to watch while Luke Skywalker flies the X-Wing.
I ran out of engine pieces, so I kind of did my own thing at the bottom. Just ignore it. It's terrible.
These engines cleverly use tiles to get the engine details. There's space for a pilot and his blaster with a fire extinguisher, and there's a slot for an astromech. The features include S-foil attack position, and I included the closing mechanism from the 2018 model.
The X-Wing's wings, the cannons, and the engines are fragile. Pretty much everything is fragile. So for that reason, it's getting a 7.5 out of 10, but it still has that old charm to it, especially with these S-foils and the nose.
Sometimes when building a Lego MOC, color consistency is important. That's why when I built this A-Wing a long time ago, I decided to build it in black and gray instead of the usual red and white. That's because I didn't have a lot of dark red or white pieces in the right shade. That's why I resorted to building a dark themed A-Wing that I call the Shadow A-Wing, built for covert missions. The MOC has 360-degree rotating cannons and neon engines with an illegal building technique using tires to represent the engine rings. At the bottom, I added a section to store some accessories, and of course there's a cockpit that can open to seat the minifigure.
This build is nearly perfect. It's getting a 9.5 out of 10.
Then we have the spare parts version of this A-Wing, which uses a little bit of white since I was running out of the gray pieces. I ran out of the A-Wing cockpit, so I had to use a different one, but this one still smooths out pretty nicely. The wings aren't as great though, but there's still space for a minifigure.
The features remain the same, so 7 out of 10.
Every Lego snowspeeder uses X-Wing cockpits, so naturally when I went to build my own snowspeeder, I wanted to use one. But the problem was that I already used both of my X-Wing cockpits to build my X-Wing and this car, so I was left with only one option: to use a car windshield, which now that I look at it, actually more accurately captures the look of the snowspeeder. I got inspiration from some other MOCs to rotate this window on its side and add a cheese slope on top. And since my techniques were slightly unconventional, the gunner and pilot barely fit in. I also funnily added this zebra print pattern from the 90s. So I guess this is a luxury snowspeeder.
Overall rating, 8 out of 10. It's a pretty clean design.
This crossbow uses a rubber band to launch a 1x4 brick, which uses the simple Technic beam mechanism. The handle is just a Spinjitzu spinner handle. First try.
8 out of 10. It works.
Next we have this police truck that looks tough because I added some bars on the front. The back can open to store plenty of criminals, and the front has doors that open for the driver. This truck can fit 6 criminals stuffed in and 5 stacked.
This build is simple, but it works, so it's also getting an 8 out of 10.
Then we have this random rescue boat that uses this Coast Guard print from the beach buggy from 1999.
6 out of 10.
After we have this train cannon.
It's silly because it uses a literal barrel as a barrel, so that's an 11 out of 10. No, for real, this is probably a 2 out of 10, but anyways.
And then we have this simple crab droid that has legs and uses hammers for cannons.
This one is simple yet effective, so that's a 9 out of 10, easy.
I'm reviewing one of the most colorful Lego creations from my childhood.
And this one is about the fire station.
It's a pretty big MOC with 3 stories, and this time it has a roof. Starting from the ground floor, there's a fire hydrant, a mailbox, and a door that leads to the interior. There's the reception with a broken chair, the electricity switches, some tanks, and my 20s style fire truck that uses some neat building techniques for the shaping. It has a stud shooter hose, a raisable ladder, and some space for minifigures with a vintage engine.
It's a rough build, so it gets a 7 out of 10.
On the second floor, there's a fireplace with a fire extinguisher and a computer with a hot dog. On the third floor, there are uniforms, a cupboard, and a bunk bed that's connected to the wall. Of course, there's a teddy bear for this guy.
On the roof, there's the John and some plants.
Now you might have noticed that every floor has a hole, and that's to access the pole that the firemen slide down in case of an emergency, just like this. I didn't have a bar that was long enough to reach the roof, so you have to get to the third floor if you want to get down.
This is one of the best play features that I've ever built, and it was inspired off of the 2016 fire station that had that pole in the middle. Unfortunately, I didn't have that exact piece. This MOC overall is kind of rough. It doesn't have a full roof, but it has that charm and it has a lot of play value, so it gets a 7.5 out of 10. Next, we have my massive and extremely long steam engine.
This train has 9 carts, including the train engine, and measures 80 centimeters or 31 inches. Of course, we have to start with the engine, where the steam comes out.
I'm pretty impressed with the fact that I used these Technic rings to create those tubes on the steam engine. I used those OG train wheels from the 60s, which really gives it that vintage look.
There's a door that opens to stand the conductor. Then we have the second cart designed to store the fuel of the train.
This second cart also has a Minecraft coal ore block in it, which is a pretty cool reference.
Next, on the third cart, which is the prison cell or another place to store some cargo, the sides open on most of the carts, and the tops also can be removed for easy access. The fourth cart is the main storage area with a large loading ramp that can comfortably fit a tiny police car for some extra security. Then we have the fifth cart that can be opened to see a person working on their PC, maybe playing Minecraft trying to find a diamond armor chicken jockey. Then the sixth cart was one of the first carts built, so it doesn't open on the side, but on the outside it has a handle so that someone can hang on for dear life. And on the inside there's a mini fridge with a burger, a cup, and a food cart. Then the seventh cart is the only normal looking cart with a seat for a passenger, a table, and a treasure chest with a chocolate frog, because this is basically the Muggles Hogwarts Express.
I even added a caboose. I don't even know what a caboose does.
Since I didn't know what a caboose did, the interior just has a chair with a vintage music player that's weirdly reflective. That way, whoever is stuck in here can listen to music. In the back, there's a balcony to enjoy the nice view. And what's fun about the caboose is that there's this huge box thing at the top. Again, since I didn't know it was up there, I added a bed so that someone who isn't claustrophobic and doesn't have the fear of heights can sleep here. So basically not me.
When I wasn't looking, my very bad friend Grogu snuck as many minifigures as possible into this 80 centimeter long train. Right, Grogu? Yeah! Let's open the door. Okay, one minifigure. Okay, so the prison cell has a lot of minifigures in. A lot of crooks. 7. Guy inside, so 9. We got 2 minifigures. We have 1, 2, 3. First class passenger. Okay, that's not so much first class anymore. 5. 3 minifigures. 28 minifigures. You get 28 minifigures inside of this. This train was one of my favorite builds to play with as a kid because you could detach the carts, separate them, access the interior, place a ton of minifigures inside. So overall, I'm giving this one a 9.5 out of 10. It's not the craziest in looks, but in playability, it's up there, or it's one of the best.
Now, the two MOCs with the highest ratings were the Train at 9.5 and the A-Wing at 9.5. Tied in ratings. Now, in terms of playability, the Train outdoes the A-Wing every day of the week. But in terms of overall design, the A-Wing is much cleaner. But a MOC overall is about what it looks like. So this A-Wing takes the win in my heart. It's a much sturdier build. But they did get the same rating, so maybe I just leave it up to you guys to decide which one is better.